32 and 31. This is day 10 of us covering all 32 teams, getting ready for the NFL preseason. And tonight we're on these Denver Broncos, ladies and gentlemen. If you have not, make sure that you do subscribe to the channel, click that bell, turn on your notifications so you don't miss a stream. Also, make sure you guys hit that like, hit that thumbs up. I do appreciate the support on the channel as we get through these Denver Broncos. A lot of craziness, a lot of interesting things going on with this team. Sean Payton taking over, Russell Wilson leaving, and now you've got yourself three young quarterbacks, some with experience, some with college experience, some with NFL experience. But I think the biggest thing that we're looking for right now is who is actually going to lead this team after Russell Wilson has moved on. And it's really unfortunate because when you look at the opportunities that Russell Wilson could have brought to this franchise, if he was able to get this team together and get the chemistry going the right way, I do think that the Denver Broncos could have been absolutely amazing. They could have changed things around. Unfortunately, the locker room didn't really believe in him. His offensive line didn't really believe in him. And I think Russell Wilson was kind of at that point in his career where things just really stopped making sense as far as his time in Denver. So obviously he moves on to the Steelers, and the rest is history. So now you got three choices. You got Stidham, who obviously has had his own challenges being behind other quarterbacks in this season, in different seasons. And then obviously you got Bo Nix coming over from Oregon, who's an absolute stud. And then you've got Zach Wilson. You've got Zach Wilson, and it's kind of crazy because what are you gonna do at this point? Shout out to you, Richard. Much love to the Wrench Gang in the building. Let's go. So yeah, I mean the questions remain. What's going to happen with this team? Who's Sean Payton going to rely on when it matters the most? And, out of the reps that these guys are getting during training camp, who's going to stand out the most? But before we get into all that, we'll break down the depth chart and then obviously get into the good things, the bad things, and, what we think. So as far as your depth chart for the Broncos, getting into the quarterbacks, you got Jarrett Stidham as the current starter, not truly confirmed yet, but he's up first. And you got Bo Nix and then Zach Wilson. As far as your running back, you got Javonte Williams, Samaje Perine, Jaleel McLaughlin, and Audric Estime. Your wide receiver is going to be Cortland Sutton. Second, Tim Patrick, Brandon Johnson, Philip Dorsett. Wide receiver Josh Reynolds, Troy Franklin, Devon Veli, and then Michael Brandy. Then Marvin Mims, right? Marvin Mims come over. I think he's definitely going to have a great season depending on who's able to get the ball to him the most. But you definitely don't want to waste his talent. After that, you've got little Jordan Humphrey. Haven't heard that name in a while. Jalen Virgil, and then David Sills. And then as far as your tight end, Adam Troutman, Greg Dulcich, Lucas Kroll, and Nate Atkins. Fullback is going to be Michael Burton. And then your offensive line at left tackle, you got Garrett Bowles. Ben Powers. Center is going to be Sam Mustipher. Right guard's Quinn Mirnes. And then right tackle, Mike McGlinchey. So, yeah, this is a mess. It's a mess. And, this is going to be Sean Payton's job as far as getting this team together and making sure that he has a quality situation that something can happen for the Broncos. I will say this. This is going to be very difficult. Very difficult. And shout out to you, Richard. I think the reality is, he's going to have to use someone who is going to be fresh, have great legs, is going to be able to figure things out from a point of, I'm a baller. I can go out here and get the job done. And I just need a little bit of development. I just need a little bit of coaching and this team to believe in me. And you're right, Richard. I think that boils down to Bo Nix, right? We've seen what he was able to do, in Oregon. And out of the bunch, I think he displays the most promise We know that Jarrett Stidham does have real-time NFL experience, but he's kind of just been on the back burner for the last 4 years. And then obviously you get into Zach Wilson, and he just, he had the reins with the Jets, and he dropped the ball completely, pun intended. And now, Aaron Rodgers comes over, and that just changes everything. So now Zach Wilson has to move on. He's in a position now to where he has to prove himself again. And, I just don't think that is going to happen. Now, unfortunately for him, you're going up against, or fortunately for him, you're going up against, a rookie quarterback and then someone who really hasn't seen as much starting time as you have. So, yeah. You do have another shot at getting it right. You do have another shot of going out there and trying to prove yourself to Sean Payton now, because, we know that Salah is very, very difficult and very hard on his players, which he should be. But I'll tell you this, Sean Payton's not going for the nonsense either. And in fact, I think Sean Payton's more of a tough coach than Salah is. So yeah, Zach Wilson's definitely in for it if he thinks that he's just gonna, play around with this squad and just go out there and have his way. So I definitely don't trust Zach Wilson. I don't think he's gonna be able to do anything. And yeah, I do think Bo Nix probably has the best opportunity coming into next season. Now, as far as the running back, Javonte Williams, right? We've seen what he was able to do. I think he's someone that they're definitely going to try to use as a workhorse. They're going to try to build the offense around him because they're definitely going to need it. Cortland Sutton, someone that you can depend on to catch the ball for you. Josh Reynolds as well. Marvin Mims just coming in. I think he's definitely going to be, trying to prove himself and hopefully he can build some chemistry with whoever's going to be throwing him the ball. There's a lot. And I think at the end of the day, with what's going on with this team, they're in rebuild mode. They're in development mode. So I don't expect too much. And I think you have to keep your expectations in check when it comes to, what's going to happen with these Broncos. Because if you go into the season and hype yourself up too much, I think you will be disappointed. But obviously, there will be some surprises, or there may be some surprises, and we'll get into the schedule in a moment here. But, for the most part, I'm not going to sit here and down the Broncos because they have a lot of work to do. They've got to figure out, the identity of this team, and they're really going to have to take their time as far as, understanding who's going to be the best fit, because right now it's truly all over the place. And, we got time. We got basically a month out before preseason, so we'll really get to see, who's going to show up and who's going to do what when it comes to, actual game time. And then obviously we've got, a couple months before we get into the regular season. So hopefully Sean Payton will have this situation figured out and we'll kind of have an idea as far as what's going on. But, how it looks on paper right now, it's completely a mess. There's no clear vision as far as, what these Broncos are going to do. Shout out to you, Ernie. What up, yo? What's going on with you, Jacob, in the house? Forrest Green, let's go. Says my son is a graduate from the U of O. Go Ducks, let's go. So, yeah, and then, obviously you get into this offensive line here. This is going to be another situation where you're trying to figure out who's going to do what. And, are these guys really going to be able to protect and give whoever is starting for you the opportunity to figure things out? These guys are going to need time back there. And I don't really want to get into Zach Wilson because we know that he struggles. He just can't figure it out. He has the worst time going through his progressions in regards to trying to move a ball. And then when he tries to run, it looks silly, and we don't really consider him to be a running dual threat quarterback. That's not his game. So, Bo Nix, I think, is definitely going to be the individual that out of this bunch probably gets the best opportunity, because I do think that Sean Payton's going to have the best opportunity to work with him, develop him. He's fresh. He's new. He's going to be hungry. So I do think he's going to stand out the most when it comes down to it. So, yeah, the offensive line, I do think they will probably rally behind him more so than, an untrustworthy and an unproven Zach Wilson. Then obviously Stidham as well. He hasn't really done much. You've had plenty of years to make some kind of a difference and make some kind of a, name for yourself. And, yeah, I get that you've been on the back burner, but you haven't gotten it done. And that's just the reality of it. If we get into the stats, looking at Jarrett Stidham over the past 4 years, 14 yards his first year out, second year 256. Third year he had 656, and then the fourth year, obviously with the Broncos, he had 496. He averaged 7.5. He did have 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. His long was 54, but he was sacked 7 times. At this point, you think you'd have some kind of, something going for you. And I just don't see Stidham working out. And then on the flip side, you get into Zach Wilson, right? His first year with the Jets, he had 2,334 yards. His long was 6.1. He had 9 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. And yeah, you kind of give him the benefit of the doubt because he was a rookie, 44 sacks. It was terrible. QBR 33.4. But then obviously you get into 22. He played 9 games. He had 1,600 yards, 6 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He had more interceptions than touchdowns. He was sacked 23 times. And then, last season he played 12 games, 221 completions, 368 attempts. He had 2,200 yards. He was 8 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. And he was sacked 46 times. It's terrible. It's terrible. And, to have all these guys together, it's really wild as far as just trying to pick who you're going to utilize the most from a quarterback standpoint. But then we get into Bo Nix, right? And all you really have for Bo Nix is going off of his college stats. But, when you look at what he's done over the years, going from Auburn to Oregon, he's improved every year, starting with, Auburn. He had 2,542 yards, 16 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He was sacked 17 times. Followed up next year with, 12 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He was sacked 21. But then, next year after that, he had 2,294 yards, 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and only had 12 sacks. So he got better. The year after that with Oregon, he moves on. He gets 3,593 yards, 29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and only sacked 5 times. And then followed that up last year with the best year of his career, 4,508 yards, 45 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. His long was 84 and 5 sacks. The man was balling. It doesn't get any better than that. So, for the most part, I think the answer is almost written on the wall as far as who they not only need to choose, but who should be out there. And I think that's, what Sean Payton is going to do probably at the last minute once he sees these guys playing and through preseason and going through that. Shout out to you, Cap. Yeah, man, it's not good. it's not good. But like I said, these Broncos are definitely in the point of developing and they're rebuilding. This is going to be a rebuild year, right? There's going to be a lot of pain. There's going to be a lot of, tests. There's going to be a lot of situations that don't really make sense as far as, choosing personnel for certain things. There's going to be a lot of, figuring out chemistry and all that kind of stuff. And it's going to be a bumpy ride. It's going to be a roller coaster. And unfortunately, the Broncos are not going to be a good team. You will see some moments where you do see something special, right? You will see some moments where you get a quick highlight or two. But as far as this team in general actually going out and being challenging and being any kind of threat, I just don't see it. But we'll get into the schedule, right? We'll get into the schedule and, we'll chop through it and we'll see what makes sense and where they probably have the most opportunity to do something. So, next season, they'll obviously start off week 1 and going against the Seattle Seahawks. This will be their basically season opener. You've got Locke over there. I'm not sure what's going on with Geno. We'll have to figure that out. But for the most part, I mean, this could be a game where you kind of have a chance to show up, but then also it's going to, be your defense having to ball out against that great group of an offense. And, Seahawks defense, if you're not playing a top-notch game, they can eat you alive. So starting off week one, I would I would like to see him have a decent game here, but this could be a blowout. I mean, that's just the reality of it. Next, you're going up against, the Steelers. And once again, this is a strong defense that, please don't put Zach out there against the Steelers. Stidham's not going to stand a chance, so I'm assuming you're expecting Bo Nix to go out there against this veteran defense and potentially do something, and we could be surprised. This could be one of those situations where it does benefit them because of the situation with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields and them battling it out to choose who's going to be the best there. So, I mean, it could work in their favor. But once again, this is going to be a situation to where we don't know who's going to do what. After that, it's going to be Tampa Bay. I don't think the Broncos are going to beat Tampa Bay. I think Baker Mayfield's on a mission to prove himself. He's still got a great team and a good defense, so I'm going to take Tampa Bay there. The Jets, right? Aaron Rodgers coming back. I mean, I don't think we're going to see Zach Wilson at all, but it would be kind of funny if we did see Zach Wilson going up against Aaron Rodgers. It would be a complete massacre, but it would be absolutely hilarious to see. But just right off the bat, because of the defense, I'd have to take the Jets there. The Raiders as well. I mean, this is really bad. I mean, it's not looking good for Denver. The Raiders, strong defense as well. You've got Minshew, you've got O'Connell, Adams. There's a lot going on with these Raiders, and I don't really think they stand a chance there either. You may have some opportunities with the Chargers is because you've got Herbert who's lost, a couple of his significant pieces. So the chemistry is going to change. But once again, these defenses have already built up the chemistry. They've already built up the reputation for, not allowing you to put up a lot of points unless you have some superstars on your team that's going to go out there and get the job done. And unfortunately, the Broncos just don't have that at quarterback right now. Then you get into the Saints. I think this could be a game where the Broncos could, they could show us something. Derek Carr, I think he's lost a step, and unfortunately the Saints just ain't that team anymore. So, yeah, I think they got a good chance of getting some burn there. Next as well for the Panthers. I think that's another one where, this team would have a decent opportunity as far as showing some burn, going up against, Bryce Young and company. Bryce Young having his own issues and that Panthers team having their own problems in chemistry. So, yeah, this could be an opportunity. King Early says desperate times. It's tough. It's tough. Then you got, I don't even think I need to say it. You got Baltimore. You got Kansas City. Atlanta, that's, Kirk and company. Then you're back to the Raiders again. And then you've got the Browns on a Monday night. It's bad. It's really, really bad. And it would take an absolute miracle for this team to figure something out against anybody past week 9 through their bye. Now, obviously after that, it's going to be the Colts. Then you get back into the Chargers, the Bengals, and then Kansas City again. This is nasty work. It's bad. And, I think at this point, if Bo Nix doesn't come out as being this absolute gunslinger who can play automatically in his first year at an NFL level and adjust to that speed almost immediately, it's going to be rough. And you're hoping that your defense can obviously keep things close to give this team a chance. Listen, I don't think Denver's going to lose every game, but I do think that it's going to be very rough. It's going to be very rough for them to create something and get something going against teams that are already established, teams that have a strong defense, and that's just the reality of it. Let me hop into this chat with you guys. Cav says the Broncos are pitiful. It's tough. Shout out to you, King Early. What up, yo? What's going on with you? Joe Black says, man, that team looks bad. It's crazy. This is probably the worst we've seen the Broncos. And the Broncos, for the most part, has had a team that could do something. This is looking really bad. Really bad. James says, did I click on the wrong stream since when is Jay talking about the Broncos? Come on now. We cover every team over here. Shout out to you, James. Desperate times. That's for sure. Jay, do you think Denver defense will be decent? Yeah, I think the defense will be, they'll try to keep things close, but these guys are going to get tired. Who knows how the injuries are going to affect them, because that could turn into a thing if they're overworked and, they're spending all their time out there in that field. That could be that could be huge trouble for this team. And I think that's the biggest problem when we look at what's going on with the Broncos. Sean Payton has his handful, man. He really does. I mean, we expect, Franklin Myers to go out there, Levi Wallace, Pat Surtain, we expect these guys to definitely step up, but the offense is going to have to put up points. I don't care who's on the Broncos defense. The offense is going to have to put up points, and that's the only way you're going to compete in this league now, right? This is a offense-based league. And if you're not putting up something to not only, match the pace, but to just keep things close, you're not going to have a chance. And that's going to be one of the big things that we most likely see with the Broncos coming into this season, is other teams are going to run up the score real fast. And then you're going to be sitting there like, what the hell is going on? Because the Broncos team can't catch up. And that's going to be the reality of it. And it's really unfortunate. It really is. Jacob says, please put Zach Wilson in. Denver Broncos disappeared after Peyton Manning. That is a fact. That's a fact. It's been wild. Broncos will be battling for the first pick in the draft, but let Bo learn on the job. Kids can do it. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not completely writing Bo Nix off, but I think it's going to be a learning curve. It's going to be an adjustment. And you're expecting this offensive line to give this rookie the best opportunity possible to go out there and potentially win some games. And I think they know what's coming. I think they understand it, right? It's very difficult for someone like Bo Nix to come into this kind of franchise and just change things around automatically. I mean, I'm not going to say that Bo Nix is the same as Justin Fields, but I do think that if Bo Nix starts, he's going to be in the same kind of situation that Justin Fields was in years ago. And then you're running into the same kind of outcome, right? An upset quarterback who actually has talent, who has to try and get a team over the hump, who is absolutely terrible. And I think that's unfortunately where it's at. It's not good. There's going to be a lot that has to happen for this team. Hopefully they can do some trades, figure some things out, pick some people up for free agency, get some more veteran presence in there. They're going to need it. They're going to need it. Forrest, did you think Aaron will make it 4 games to play the Broncos? He only made it 4 plays last year. Listen now. I don't want to get into the Aaron Rodgers slander just yet. We'll be covering the Jets soon. We got to talk about Aaron Rodgers for sure. But I don't know. I think Aaron's going to come back. I think he's not going to play at the level that we know he could, but he's going to probably give it his last hurrah. That's what I'm assuming. Ernie says maybe Tebow time. Somebody get Tebow on the line. Listen, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not saying Tebow now, but I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere down the road the Broncos end up trading for some kind of, veteran, or they pick up a veteran who can come in and do something, because this is bad. This is the worst worst quarterback group that I've seen on a team in a long time. And Bo Nix is your only hope. Zach Wilson is absolutely trash. Jared Stidham is trash. Your only hope is Bo Nix, and that is the absolute reality. And then the worst thing about Bo Nix coming into this situation is he doesn't have anybody to learn from, right? There's not even a veteran on the team where he can say, all right, this guy was decent or he was okay as a quarterback and I can listen to what he has to say and I can take some pointers from him. You got Zach Wilson as your veteran? What? You know, I could only imagine what Bo Nix is sitting there thinking about right now. Like, damn, I got to go do this myself. I don't really have any kind of, help besides my quarterback coach and my head coach and, but as far as like a peer presence that can help me, I'm not going to ask Zach Wilson shit. I'm not going to ask Jared Stidham anything either, right? I'm just going to blow them out the box in training camp and preseason. I'm going to start, and then I'm going to have to do this thing myself. And if Bo Nix comes into this situation and actually leads the Broncos to some significant victories, this will probably be one of the greatest scenarios we've seen in a long time, especially for the Broncos. Without a doubt. Shout out to you, Purple. What up, yo? Purple in the house. Shout out to the Wrench Gang. Go says something AR is going to have a season like Manning did his last 2 years in the league. Obviously, we know that's speculation. Complete speculation. But anything can happen. That's the reality of it. We know he's coming back from the ACL injury. Players don't normally play the same. But we've seen crazy stuff happen. We've seen crazy stuff happen. I'm just not sure if Aaron Rodgers is the guy to get it done, but it's just the reality of it. Ernie Zach could say, watch me and don't do that. Yeah. Nathan says, Zach would say, I was going to learn from you. Yo, listen. It is terrible. I went through the stats because you guys know I'm a stats guy. I love to get into the research and stuff like that. I started breaking down Stidham versus Wilson. And I couldn't even find myself to put Wilson in the choices for the poll. That's how bad it was. Because, all right, even if you don't like Stidham and you don't believe in him, you say, okay, I understand that Stidham rolled the bench when he was with the Patriots. I understand he rolled the bench when he was with the Raiders. I understand he rolled the bench last year. So you kind of give him the benefit of the doubt because he wasn't starting. When it comes to Zach Wilson, it's like, yo, you had the team and you had the talent and you had the defense. So there's no excuse. You're just a shitty quarterback. And that's the reality of it. And that's where the Broncos are right now. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But for the most part, I mean, like I said, I think all the chips are eventually going to be on Bo Nix. Hopefully he's getting some kind of help from a significant quarterback. Hopefully John Elway can really mentor this kid and sit him down and lead him in the right direction because he's going to need it. I don't want to say that the Broncos are a team that I would consider to, be a lost cause, but they're going to need a lot of work. They're going to need someone to step up and, really figure things out with this team. Is Sean Payton that same coach that we knew from the Saints? I don't think so. I think it's going to be very rough. I'm not sure he's going to be the one to figure it out. And I would be surprised if we see him, down the stretch before people start calling for his head. So there's going to be a lot of people who are talking about, Russell Wilson and him leaving and how bad how bad this team plays next year. So be on the lookout for that. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. So I did put up a poll for you guys. The question was Stidham or Nix, and it is the overwhelming majority, 89% for Nix, holding it down in the poll. And it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, I don't have to sit here and keep telling you this. You can go back and look at the stats for yourself between all three. Wilson, Stidham, and Nix. Go look at the stats, and it's clear cut. And even if you go look at the tape and the training camp and all that kind of stuff, it's very clear what's going to happen here as far as from a choice of quarterback. Crumble says Broncos will go 10-7. Ghost says we're all overthinking this. The Broncos are clearly going to tank this season. Yeah, it's pretty clear. There's really nothing to overthink. It's sad. You know, I try to find the best and teams sometimes, and sometimes, you know, it's sometimes there is no best. Sometimes it is what it is. That's the reality of it. Nathan says, I've never heard of any of those wide receivers. Come on now. You've heard of Josh Reynolds and Cortland Sutton. Don't do that now. Marvin Mims, obviously, you know, newer guy, fresh. But Josh Reynolds, Cortland Sutton, you should have heard of those two. Come on now. Marvin Mims is promising. I think he's going to do well. Good hands, shifty, great route runner. He's got some speed. I think the point of his talent, though, is whether or not he's going to get the ball thrown to him and who's going to be able to do it. I think, unfortunately, Mims will be wasted next year, and it's sad because he's very promising. That's the reality of it. So, I'm sorry I don't have more for you tonight, but it was Denver Broncos night. It's bad. It's bad. And we'll just have to see what happens. You guys know we'll still stream the games. I'll still stream the Broncos. We'll see what happens, but it's going to be a weird year. We'll see what Sean Payton does. So yeah, we're on it, ladies and gentlemen, every night. We're covering all 32 teams. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll have some better news for you for the team tomorrow. But yeah, we'll go from there. You guys have a great evening. I do appreciate each and every one of you. Shout out to the Wrench Gang. Shout out to the family, all the listeners, all the watchers. I do thank you all. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace out.